Today is Sunday, July 31st, 2022. It is also day 3 of JS for websites. And yesterday I left off on Cat Academy on the custom name tags challenge. And then today I watched this video 2 times because I was a little confused on the practicality of the query selector. Like this specific one for just selecting one element. I mean, even she mentioned that's not practical because usually if we want to select one element, we would use an ID, right? And then just use get element by ID. But I guess I'll just practice it today in the challenge. And then this is pretty self-explanatory. It's just if I want to select a CSS selector, I can literally just use this function, query selector all, and then pass in the same selector that I used in my CSS. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to move on to this. So challenge query modernizer. Okay, this was I can't even speak. Oh my god, this web page displays a selection of Isaac Newton's queries, a book from the 1700s. Back then, Newton used the word doth instead of does because that's how English was spoken. In this challenge, you'll change all instances of doth to does. Each of them is surrounded by a span tag with a class of doth. For the first step, use document.querySelectorAll to find only the doths that are inside the list and store them in a variable. Sure. Okay, so they're using CSS. So where's my CSS? It should be in the... It's not even in the head tag. Where is it? It should be a style tag. It's not even here. What does it say? For the first step, use document.querySelectorAll to find only the doths that are inside the list and store them in a variable. Oh, that's what it means. Okay, I got you. Okay. Store all the doths that are inside the list. So for this one, it would be document dot query selector all, and then in my case, it would be an li, I think it's parentheses, an li because of the list, and then inside the list there are classes doth. Store all the doth that are inside. So this is equal to that. Okay. All right, so to reiterate, this is a variable called doth elements, right? So these are the doth elements. And then I'm saying, okay, from the document, use this function query selector all that selects basically all of the classes doths, right, that are inside the list. So now I'm understanding. So I was thinking that I could only use the CSS selectors if I had them written in CSS. That's what I was thinking. But no, it's saying that this is another way of selecting elements, that I could use CSS selectors in inside these functions as well if I use query selector all. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that misconception up because that's what I was thinking. I thought that I had to have this in my CSS, like in style tags. That's why in the beginning I was like looking for style tags because I was like, where, like, is it not supposed to be in there? But no, it's just saying, Pamela, I believe, is just saying that another way of selecting, let me rephrase, another way of selecting elements from the DOM is by using the same format as I would in CSS. Okay, next step. Now that you've stored the elements in variables, use a for loop to iterate over them and change the text of each element to does. All right, so this is a skill that I learned yesterday, so let's see if I remember. All right, so for, and then it's that. Okay, so first create a variable. I guess I'll call it doth and set it equal to 0, and then semicolon, and then as long as doth is less than the doth els.length, then do doth plus plus. So okay, so this is actually returning, I believe it's not an HTML collection. That's if I were to use get elements by class name and get elements by tag name. That would return an HTML collection, also known as an array. This query selector all actually returns a node list, which I have to do the same thing, the for loop. Okay, I just have to remember that. But because it's a list, right, I have to iterate through the list so that I could actually have any, or like I'd actually make any changes to each doth, right, or to each, to each doth in that list, right? Because doth else is a list of all of the doths. I can't even speak. I'm like genuinely worried right now. Like I can't even understand what I'm saying. Like this doth and does is confusing me right now. I don't know how they did it in the 1700s. All right, so basically the doth else variable contains a list of all the doths in this page, okay? And then I need to make a change to each doth to change it to does. And so in order to do that, I'll get doth els, and so for each doth in it, I'll change its inner HTML and set it equal to does. All right, so now I can clearly see, hold on, I can't even find it. Let me do does. Okay, so for example, if I don't have this line over here and I delete it, notice that it changes to doth over here, but if I put this in here, it changes to does. Okay, so that's the goal here. All right, finish challenge. Okay, I think that's it for today. I don't really want to do a lot today. Summary, DOM access methods. We showed you how you can do the following methods. Yeah. Oh, I didn't practice this one. I still don't. Let me see, is there links? This document returns the first element within the document that matches a specified selector or group of selectors if no matches are found. What? So it would, if I use this in this case, in the previous challenge, it would only return the first doth. Is that what I'm guessing here? Let me actually go back and see. So if I use query selector and just kind of get rid of this, and I get rid of this also, and then I just do doth els dot inner HTML equal to does, because I wouldn't need, that doesn't make sense because this one is doth. Is a query selector, why did I close the page? Query selector. Interesting. So, because I don't need that, I needed to make it a hashtag doth. But then this would have had to been a hashtag if I were to give this an ID of doth. Hashtag doth ID doth. I kid you not, I don't know what this is. I'm really not understanding the selector here. Document.query selector hashtag doth. It's an ID, right? But it would work if I did this. Get element by ID. And then, I wouldn't need doth els dot inner HTML. Interesting. Get element by ID. Get element by ID, and then that would be the ID. And then I would have done doth els. Oh, it's because it's a capital L. Oh, there we go. See? It works. All right, it works that way, but then let me go back to how I had it. It was query selector, right? Query selector, and then hashtag. It still works. What if I want to change it to blue? Oh, it does work. Okay. All right, that's my bad. I had a capital L there. So it does work. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So what if I had, illegal? Was it illegal? Is it that deep? All right, so that doesn't work. It has to be an ID. Okay. So I guess it's another way of selecting IDs. All right. So that does change. Okay, so now I'm understanding. Okay, I didn't understand before because it wasn't working because I had a capital L. But I guess it's just another way of selecting IDs using CSS selectors, which makes sense, right? Because CSS, you can select IDs just like this also. Oh, that's so interesting. Wait, so let me think. So not only can I select... Oh, wow. I think I just realized. Okay, so the whole thing is DOM access methods, right? And so there's different ways to access the DOM. And specifically, certain nodes or elements, they're used interchangeably, inside the DOM. And so if I want to select, let's say, a certain element, then I just do tag like get elements by tag name, right? It's kind of similar to the class. But if I want to select a certain tag, then I do get element by tag. And I'm sorry, by ID. Did I say tag? If I want to select a certain ID, I do get element by ID. And then that's for HTML though. But if I'm working with CSS, not if I'm working with CSS, but when I want to like target or access certain elements from the DOM using CSS notation, then I can use this to kind of grab an ID, and I can use the other one, what's it called? The query selector all to do nested stuff. Oh my god, did I delete the for loop? Let me just rewrite it again. So for let me put that in here. So for var doth equals 0, as long as doth is less than doth els dot length, then do doth plus plus, and then change doth for each doth and doth els in HTML, change it to does. All right, so then this kind of does nested, right? What do you call it? Nested selectors. So if I'm thinking about it, this is kind of the way to access any elements in the DOM is literally by using CSS notation. Just as if you were to access it in CSS, you would access it here using certain functions. So for example, this one would be if I had nested CSS selectors. And then the get element, let me see, day 2. Then this one would be if I just had a certain class, right? Or like one specific class as a selector. And then this one would be if I have a specific tag as a selector. And then this one is kind of a different one. This one is just one. It's the easy one. Like it's just if you have a certain ID, but it's the same thing. It would be just the ID. So I guess the difference between this one and then this one, query selector, is that over here I can just insert the ID without the hashtag, but then over here in the query selector I have to put in the hashtag just as if I were to select it or to write it in CSS. But then this one is without the dot or anything, but then over here when I'm using the query selector I have to add in like the specific notation like the dot, right? If I'm targeting any classes, right? So I guess that's the difference. Like this is more CSS, right? Rather than these, which are just kind of like a little nicer syntax wise, that I don't have to put in the hashtag, I don't have to put in the dot. I can just literally put in the class name and then the ID that I want. But then over here, right, again, I have to actually put in the hashtag if I were to use query selector. And then over for query selector all, I would have to put in the dot if I were going to, put in a class. Okay, that's my summary. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here because, girl, I don't know. I just want to go now. Okay, bye.